In this lesson, we'll start getting your local system set up to take this training course and learn some useful things along the way. Just to be clear, we're setting up a learning environment though. We'll not be using production settings. To install Couchbase Server, go to couchbase.com/downloads to download Couchbase Enterprise Edition 5. Choose your operating system, and then download and install the assets as required by your operating system. Or if you prefer to work with a containerized instance, visit couchbase.com/containers. When you run the Couchbase Setup tool to set up a new cluster, you'll assign a name for the cluster, along with an admin username and password. You'll provide the host name and IP address, or accept defaults, and paths for the data and index files, unless, again, the defaults work for you. Then you'll assign memory quotas for each service, and indicate whether to use standard or memory-optimized indexing. For detailed information on memory quotas and indexing, check our documentation and online articles. Once your installation process is complete, your browser should open to the admin UI at localhost 8091. Navigation's on the left. The UI opens on the dashboard where you can quickly review cluster-wide metrics. The server screen lets you add, remove, configure, and rebalance the nodes in your cluster. The bucket screen lets you create and manage these top-level data containers and their documents. The indexes screen lets you review the definition, type, and status of each of your global secondary indexes, the indexes used by Nickel. The search screen lets you define full-text search indexing and run test queries. The query screen itself is a full-featured UI for building and running Nickel queries. The XDCR screen lets you define, filter, and manage data streams between your Couchbase clusters. The security screen lets you create users and assign security roles. The settings screen lets you control a wide range of settings from compaction behaviors to sample data deployment. And the log screen gives you log file access through the UI, as well as a tool to gather cluster-wide or node-specific diagnostic data. In the intro lesson for this course, you'll have found downloads for the workbook, lab projects, and JSON data used in this lesson. If you haven't already, download these files to your desktop, even if that means going back to the intro lesson. Now, throughout this course, you will follow the workbook to complete each lab and use the JSON data as instructed. Adding a bucket in Couchbase is easy. Just go to the bucket screen and click Add Bucket, then specify the name, the per node memory quota, the type, whether that is a persisted Couchbase bucket or a non-persisted in memory ephemeral bucket, or a more limited memcached cache. Then you'll set up your replica count up to 3, remembering that replicas in Couchbase never reside on the same node as their active document. That means you must have as many or more nodes in your cluster as your chosen replica count. In a learning environment like this, we will have one node and no replicas. Then you can choose your XDCR conflict resolution method. Now choose whether you want not recently used documents fully ejected from memory, or if their key and metadata should remain for quick access later. You can choose whether this bucket should have higher priority relative to other buckets, and if you wish, choose bucket-specific compaction settings overriding the cluster-wide settings. Last, you can choose to allow data in this bucket to be purged or flushed, which is useful during development, but likely a bad idea in a production system. Now, the basics of setting up a security user are straightforward. On the security screen, add a user and assign a username, password, and then one or more security roles. Now, in this course, we take a simple approach and create a bucket-specific user account with full access to the bucket for both administration and data access. Now, more granular network-integrated approaches are also possible, but they're beyond the scope of this course. Couchbase Enterprise Edition includes a powerful new tool called CB Import. It's for bulk loading data into buckets. Data can be loaded from external JSON or CSV files in a variety of ways. It's all in the documentation. Very helpfully, this tool lets you define document ID generation patterns based on data extracted from each document, as well as auto-incrementing values. We'll use all of that in this course. Also, very helpfully, CB import is wicked fast. For REST API testing in this course, we're using this great tool named Postman. You can download it at this URL, which is also shown in the workbook, or you may have your own tool that you prefer. So what have you learned here? Now, Couchbase is an easy download, available for virtually all operating systems. During setup, you'll configure a number of things, including memory quotas by service. Now, once installed, you'll find the UI at localhost 8091. Download the course assets, such as your working data and the workbook, to your desktop. Go back to the intro lesson if you need to go find those files. Buckets are top-level data containers, accessible with an appropriate security role. Either JSON or CSV formatted data can be rapidly ingested using CB import, with features in the tool including automatic key generation based on the imported data, as well as auto-incrementing. And virtually all of Couchbase is accessible via REST API for easy integration with your existing external systems. In this lab, we're going to have you download and install Couchbase Server in whatever way is appropriate for your system. Get your project files, get your data, load the data, and make sure that you've got a REST API tool set up for testing purposes. Now, when you're done with all of that, come on back. We have a lot more to cover. Stick around.